Hi guys, I'm sure you were waiting for today's story. So, you know what this one's called? It's called Tim the Airman. See, Tim, T I M, is Tim the Airman, right? So, let's start reading. There, can you see Tim flying in the sky? And there again, that's Tim the Airman, okay? Tim's grandfather had once been an aeroplane pilot, so he thought it would be nice to give a toy plane to Tim. "You're the best grandfather there is," he cried as he dashed out of the house with his exciting new present. He didn't have to cross any roads to reach the park, so he ran all the way. Now, to fly my own plane, he thought. He'd been told how to start the plane, and soon he had it ready to take to the air. "Now for the takeoff," he cried. "One, two, three, off!" The plane made a splendid takeoff. Tim laughed with joy, but slowly the smile went from his face. "Oh no," he cried. Come back, you silly, stupid aeroplane." For the plane had taken off and flown straight up and right out of sight. Oh my goodness. Now let's see what happens. Tim stood for a long time, looking up at the clouds. A tear began to fall on his cheek. Then he began to walk slowly towards the park gates. What would grandfather say? Tim did not know how he'd be able to tell him. He'd flown real planes. Tim couldn't fly a toy plane without losing it. Poor Tim. Then suddenly there was a noise and Tim's aeroplane came swooping past him. Tim shouted with joy, but the plane was flying very fast, and Tim was not sure that it would not swoop right up to the clouds again. He ran after it as fast as his legs could carry him. See how fast he's running? Almost jumping. "Stop, stop," he shouted, but the silly plane just went on. All around the park it flew, just a few feet above the ground with Tim in pursuit. What is pursuit? So he was chasing him. So that's you pursue someone, you're chasing them. It was going very fast and Tim began to get out of breath. He went. "I'll never catch it," thought Tim. But suddenly it began to slow down. Tim made a mighty grab at it and it was caught. He held on tightly and soon stopped the engine. Tim was feeling tired after all that running, so he sat down under a shady tree. Look at him. He's tied the plane up and he's just sleeping. He doesn't want the plane to take off again. So he's very careful. It's good to be careful with your things, right? So then you can keep them for a long time if you're careful with them. So he tied the plane and he decided to close his eyes and rest a while. Soon he was fast asleep, but not before he tied it to a tree. Then he began to dream. He dreamt a toy plane had become a real one and he was taking it high above the rooftops. Soon he began to make the plane fly higher and higher. He flew higher than any pilot had ever flown. Then suddenly the engine began to pop and bang. "Goodness," thought Tim in his dream, "the engine's going to stop. Whatever shall I do?" A few more pops and splutters, and the propeller. What's a propeller? That's the thing right in front that rotates and helps the plane to move. Slowly stopped turning. Down went Tim's plane, falling like a big leaf from a tree. Then what do you think? Below, an airliner flew on its way, and because this was only a dream, Tim's little plane landed safely on the airliner's big, wide back. "I'm really jelly lucky," thought thought Tim, as he was carried along by the big airliner. Then he was so exhausted by all this that he fell asleep even in his dream. He was still asleep when the big airliner came to land at an airport. Gently, its giant wheels touched the ground, and soon the big plane came to a stop. The passengers had left and the luggage unloaded when the pilot noticed Tim's little plane sitting on top of the airliner. Someone fetched a ladder and the pilot climbed up to the top of the big plane. He shook Tim gently by the shoulder. "Wake up, young man," he said. He shook Tim again and again. "Wake up, he repeated. Then Tim slowly opened his eyes. He was not dreaming now, he was really awake. And instead of the pilot, who was it in his dream? This is a real guy. It was Sam, the friendly park keeper. Look at him, that's Sam, the friendly park keeper. "You'll be late for your tea time, Tim. It's nearly 5 o'clock," he said. "Oh, thank you very much," cried Tim, and soon he'd untied his little plane and was hurrying with it towards the park gate. Mummy had a nice tea for Tim, and while he ate his poached egg on toast, he told her the story of his exciting afternoon. "You must tell Grandfather all about it," she smiled. "He'll say you have the making of a real pilot one day." There's Tim up in the clouds. Look at him taking off. And that is the end of this book, Tim the Airman. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Bye. See you tomorrow with another book. Take care.